Hi, I'm Daniel, and I want to share my personal experience of trying to move abroad and why I ultimately chose to come back to America, listing the top 3 reasons why I decided it was best for me and my personal situation to come back to the US and give up on my dream of living abroad. And I'm excited to talk about this. Thank you for being here. Please like, share, subscribe this video if you find it helpful. The number one thing I want to bring up first and get right into it is, unfortunately, health issues. This is the number one reason I came back to America. So I set out in January of this year, and me and my partner, we went to Vietnam to try out Da Nang and Da Lat, 2 cities in Vietnam. We spent 3 months in total, mostly in those areas, also Hoi An, to try out if we could make it in Vietnam, if we could handle living there. And then we spent 2 months in Thailand, in half in northern, half in southern, and then 1 month in Indonesia and 1 month in Fiji. We also visited Singapore. So I'm just going to talk briefly about those places and from my experience, what it was like trying to move there and see if we could start a life there, and why ultimately I decided to come back. Both of us did. Because the reality of actually integrating into another country is a whole other thing than living there for a few months. As the months wear on, the reality sets in. And the first reality is that if your health isn't in the best of shape, if you have some health issues that you're dealing with that you're not sure if you can get care for overseas, then that may come back and force you to go back to your home country, or it may make more financial sense to come back to your home country based on the kind of care that you need and how much it costs. I went to seek out care for my specific condition. I have a fungal infection in my sinuses and high levels of mycotoxins and mold issues that I'm dealing with. This is a kind of a more complex thing that their version of Western medicine over there isn't really capable of handling. When we went to see the expat hospitals in Da Nang and in Thailand, they were basically like Western hospital clones. They were like designed to have, the American healthcare experience, but more simplified, cheaper, and better. But the problem is, they don't have the infrastructure to take care of a lot of complex things, like do testing for mold and mycotoxins for instance. But this is just me and my personal situation. It's if you have great health, then maybe you'll be fine. I'm just talking about me and my personal experience, because I feel like I owed my audience this video ultimately, because I went over there and I hyped up all these countries and I had a great time. I had a great trip, best trip of my life. But by the end of it, I felt so run down because of the intense humidity aggravated my condition. And I noticed that my health has just been in the gutter the last few months. And that's why I haven't been posting a lot of videos. So I think that's the number one thing, because if you don't have good health, then what do you really have in this life? Am I right? You can have all the money in the world, have all the relationships and everything go well, but if you have health problems that do you in, it won't mean much, will it? So you have to take care of yourself in this world, and sometimes that makes it a hard decision about where you have to live to get the best care to progress and heal from what conditions you have currently. And I also wanted to see if I could find some answers, health answers out while I was out there. The best I was able to find was actually in Singapore. I saw a doctor over there, and she gave me some good advice. She was like, yeah, you can find this kind of care, but it's going to be in really specific places like Kuala Lumpur, Bangkok, or Singapore. And Singapore is very expensive, just like the US, and I wouldn't have any insurance there. And that's the thing, is I wouldn't have any insurance in any of these places because I couldn't buy insurance because of my pre-existing condition. So I basically was forced to go back to the US to try to, root back down, get, I actually qualify for free health insurance in the United States because because this channel is successful. So don't like and subscribe now. But no, I felt like it was in my best interest for this complex health issue to try to come back. So that's number one. Another factor is just like the climate and how it affects your condition. And just the quality of air is so bad in Asia. It's not good for your health. And the food is too good, so it made me eat too much. So that's another factor. I felt like it is actually better for my health to be here in America for now. So that's why I'm coming to you today from my American minivan with my American hat. And I want to talk about the second reason now, which is lack of being able to culturally integrate. I was so gung-ho before going over there about learning the language, about learning the culture, and I did learn a lot, but I scratched the iceberg. That's it. You could spend lifetimes learning the complexities of Vietnamese or Thai or any of these languages that are not English. And ultimately what I found is that is a huge commitment, time commitment that you are making. And that is a barrier ultimately to having to move somewhere else, because you must learn the language. If you move to over there somewhere abroad where English is not the main language, you have to learn their language and be able to speak it. And that is a serious investment of hundreds, maybe thousands. I don't know. Sometimes depends on the language, maybe more. Who knows how many hours you would have to devote to that. And when I really looked deep down inside, past the tourist curiosity, past the surface level, learning hello, where's the bathroom, all these things, I didn't find the motivation within myself to care enough about learning the language. Part of it is experiencing all the other problems of a place. For instance, there is no perfect place in this world. America has its problems. They're bad. Vietnam has its problems, and they're bad. They're just different problems. And I wasn't willing to accept the problems that I found with these other countries. And if you want me to go more into that about why, people burn trash in Vietnam, for instance, or why there's so much prostitution in Thailand, I can totally actually make these videos. But just to keep it short, I didn't have the hours, the time, or motivation to work the way I needed to on integrating myself into the culture and learning the language at the end of the day. And maybe that's, and everybody's different. Some people have more motivation, more desire to learn these things. And if you find a good in-person tutor, then I really think it is possible. I know it's possible. there's thousands of people doing it, but you have to look at yourself and ask yourself deep down, am I willing to spend 3,000 hours learning Thai? Are you really prepared for that? You know, to go deep and learn how to be fluent in another language that is nothing like English, does not resemble English in any way, and in fact looks like squigglies. At least some of the Vietnamese characters look similar to the English ones. Thai characters, they just look squiggly. So just looking at a bunch of worms. Ultimately, Thailand was the country that I fell in love with the most, could see myself living in the most. It has the nicest infrastructure out of all the ones that we visited, besides Singapore, of course. Singapore's too expensive. So that's another factor, being able to culturally integrate. I think another thing, just a side note, just for Americans, is we have been raised on a culture of nothing. I even call it anti-culture, if you will, where we have been desensitized to lead a life that is actually devoid of all culture. And our capacity for culture is therefore, my theory is, it's lower than every other country in the world. Because our shopping malls, our shopping centers are so bland, life here can be so sterile and so removed, living in a suburban neighborhood, not talking to your neighbors. This type of lifestyle is so normal in America that we have lost our ability, actually, to really integrate with a culture. You know, ask yourself, like, if you're American and you're familiar with Native American culture, could you see yourself actually going and living in a teepee and just sleeping on the ground and, you know, eating cactus and, you know, just living outdoors 24/7 and going back to the way that Native Americans lived? Could you actually see yourself culturally integrating into that way of life? If not, then you probably can't do it in a foreign country, because there are so many quirks and facets of how a different culture lives. And of course, it just depends on which culture, but I'll talk now a little bit about Vietnam and just how communal that culture was. Everybody has their living room open air, exposed downstairs, and they do karaoke 24/7. So it's just like a big communal experience, and they don't really, you know, value quiet or personal space. Vietnam is so interesting and fascinating, and it has its benefits. You know, I feel like that society is so much less sick than the American society. I'm not glorifying the way that Americans live, and I think it is actually psychologically ill, the way that America keeps and believes how much better and how much separate it is from the rest of the world. So I don't think that you can, if you've been used to America your whole life and you haven't ever tried to integrate into another society, or culture, just know that it takes years of hard work. And for me, my passion for what I like to do for work, which is my number 3 reason I actually moved back, overrides my desire to put in the work to adapt to another culture. For instance, I love writing in English. I'm in love with the English language. And English is a very complex language that I'm still learning, and learning new words all the time, and enjoy that process. For me, I would rather become a master at one language than a jack of all trades and learn a few different languages and not go in depth with any of them. For me, it's that complexity of being able to correctly articulate a complex thought and get it across that just lights me up and brings me alive. being able to share something like this video with you and my thoughts on it excites me. I like doing this. So it would be hard for me to go and try to learn all the vocabulary that I need to absorb to try to make a complex video like this in some other language. And it also, in the day and age of technology that we live in, wouldn't be the best use of time. That's another factor. So I'm a writer and I'm a poet and I love to write in English. And I missed the in-person act of communicating with another American, with another person that totally gets where I'm from, how I was raised, the particular type of English and the accent that I have. For me, that has so much value because I love to just meet new people and make new connections all the time. It really brings a lot of joy and meaning to my life to make new friends and connections. And I wasn't getting to do any of that in Asia because 99% of the people were expats who didn't speak English that well or locals that didn't speak English that well. It was really hard to find other people that really relate to the American diaspora. It can be a challenge. It can be a real challenge to find work that you find meaningful, that you can do remote from abroad. You know, for instance, like this YouTube channel, it's one way that I saw an avenue that I could realistically turn into my full-time work and have it be meaningful and be able to do it from anywhere. But creating a successful YouTube channel takes a long time and a lot of hard work. And the amount of time and work it took outnumbered the amount of months that I was prepared to put up with staying somewhere abroad. I'm still working on it. I'm almost 3/4 of the way towards becoming monetized, but still, I felt like it's going to take so much more work. So if you can, if you can start that process before you get over there and you're like almost monetized or you have, this, it's going to make the biggest difference in the world to be able to have something that is not only you're able to do remote and make enough money to live, but number two, have it be meaningful and impactful and be something that you want to do, could see yourself doing for the rest of your life. At the end of the day, I love and I value the in-person work that I am able to do here in the U.S. And the reason I'm able to do it in the U.S. is because I know the language well enough here and I'm adapted well enough here that I can relate to the people here. I'm lucky enough to be self-employed, to be able to do all these things and take the time to make videos like this. Thank you for being here. Please like and subscribe and hang around for more of these kind of perspectives. But I feel so fortunate and so blessed to be from the United States, because if you look at things in a global perspective, there's a lot of poverty and suffering in this world, and the United States is the richest country, or one of them, in the world. And although we have our problems and we are not even close to perfect and we do some terrible things out in the world, back here in the United States, our quality of life, for the most part, is really, really good. It's better here than it is Thailand. I'll tell you that. I mean, maybe I'm a little bit biased because I'm living in one of the nicest states right now, up here in Alaska. and I've been to other amazing states like Hawaii. But this country is huge, it's vast, it's culturally diverse, and it has a lot of options for a lot of people. If you wanted to live in Asia too, you could go live in Saipan, actually. It's still right up there near all the Asian countries, and it's a U.S. territory. It's incredible the amount of territories and states that we have at our disposal and are able to just move to on a whim without having to do a visa, which a lot of people don't qualify for. A lot of people just don't qualify or have the money to get the Thai DTV visa, for instance, to get a long-term KITAS visa in Indonesia. It's not easy to qualify to move to these countries. One of the exceptions is the Philippines, where Americans can go pretty much indefinitely. But still, there's so many cultural differences between the United States and the Philippines. And a lot of Filipinos don't know English. They know, it's just a different world. It's a different world. And if you're prepared to face all these things, I say go for it. I'm not trying to hold anyone back from living their dream of moving abroad. Because the reality is, you probably can go get a better life somewhere else. But I'm the type of person that was addicted to the grass is greener and was so transfixed on my dream that I clouded over the reality of the situation. And I had to go figure it out for myself. I had to go see it for myself. And if you're in any doubt and any question and you don't feel like it would be a failure to go, if you would just enjoy your trip no matter what ends up becoming of it, then I say absolutely you should go. Absolutely. It's so much fun to go explore another way of life and to test drive another country and the possibility of living in it. Wow, it's so fun. It really is. So give it a shot, but also be realistic and listen to, these three things, these three factors that I talked about today in my personal story and reflect on it. And you might even, hopefully learn something from that and decide if you have some of these things come up that maybe it isn't going to work for you. And you've learned that just by me, and I've saved you some time and some plane tickets just by me being me and telling my experience. That's what I hope, is that I can help people through my lived experience. So thank you for being here. I appreciate you. I will say I've lost a little bit of happiness coming back to America. It's more lonely, it's isolating. But I realize also that I can put in more work into co-creating a life that has more connection here if I want that. And I realize that I do. So I've taken the perspective that I've gained from being abroad, how the Vietnamese live communally, treat each other with compassion, and I'm bringing it back to the U.S. to spread here. So it was never a waste of time. It was a lot of fun, and I'm also glad I'm back. Hope that answers a lot of your questions. Thank you.